a Fox News alert is the Israelis now saying that today's attack on Syrian air defenses were the most significant strikes by the Israeli Air Force since 1982. Already Saturday night in Israel as this is coming out. Those strikes came during a tit-for-tat as a drone flew from Syria into Israel. Waleed Faris, Fox News national security and foreign policy analyst, joins us now. We've got an Iranian drone flown into Israeli airspace. We have got Israeli airstrikes and then Russian-made anti-aircraft weapons fired on an Israeli jet. The Israeli jet crashed. And we've got massive Israeli military strikes now. We can have a war?
It is a war already, and it has to be stopped. And the reason is that the Iranians are taking the lead. The Russians are very nervous about that. They have an understanding with the Israelis undeclared that the Russians operate in the north, the Israelis operate in the south. But the Iranians are in between. And them sending those drones over Israel is suspicious because the first time for years the Iranians would dare do this. And I have a potential explanation. The border between Iraq and Syria is now open. There is this highway between Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon.
Just so our viewers know, this is video that came in from northern Israel where that Israeli military jet, it was an F16, crashed on its way back from a strike inside Syria. Both pilots ejected and are expected to live. One's pretty seriously hurt. But clearly, Waleed, as we talk, the Israelis are sort of overlooking Syria on this and holding the Iranians responsible.
Yes, because the Assad regime is so small in size now in terms of control of land. You have either the Russians backing that regime or the Iranian controlling most of the areas of the regime control. So yes, the Israelis are talking to the Iranians in these terms and telling them, if you continue, we're going to strike against your own forces in Syria.
Hezbollah, the Iranian-backed militant group, arguably really an extension of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, saying this now changes their calculus. What does that mean? Is it an empty threat or one the Israelis should take seriously?
No, definitely seriously. I mean, Hezbollah can mobilize across the southern border of Lebanon, as you know, into northern Israel. It all depends really not on Hezbollah. It depends on what is the Iranian plan. Why are they so active now? What are they protecting in Syria? It seems to be that some experts are saying there's a possibility, Leland, that the Iranians are thinking of moving missiles to Syria. And they are telling the Israelis you cannot hit those missiles.
Well, telling the Israelis you can't hit something hasn't really worked in the past. Israel has shown a willingness and publicly said if there is game-changing weaponry being moved into Syria, we're going to hit it. They've done it in the past. Would they again?
What has changed is that the Iranians now are able to bring those missiles across the land into Syria, something that did not happen before. And the Israelis were more comfortable hitting against Syrian or Hezbollah targets. Now you have the Iranians bringing those weapons, and you have, as you just mentioned, the Russians present with their own missiles. So that is a lot of food for thought for the Israelis and their allies, the United States.
Well, clearly the Israelis did not hesitate today. Responding pretty strongly. And now with those air defenses taken out, have a little bit more leeway to act. But as you point out, this sets up not a good and pretty combustible situation. Waleed, thanks very much. More on this later in the show.